Ah, I did it again. I pressed the stream button without setting up the full screen thing in OBS, so you got to see the desktop on my laptop again, temporarily at least. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Whadjuk Noongar peoples. I pay my respect to their elders past and present, and to Aboriginal elders and peoples from other communities who may be taking part in this live stream today. Oh, good morning to the chat, or someone back there, who was it back here, said, good morning, here we go. Andrew said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, please delete where applicable. Yes, whichever part of this applies to the part of the world where you are, you can take that as an application applying to you. So good morning to Chip, first in this morning. Stephen, Austin. Oh, and Austin said that there is a package heading, it's on its way to me right now, which is, yes, this is the circuit that he's been working on for a little while now with a number of iterations, tuning a circuit that will do automatic selection of the power source for power over Ethernet, so that you can either run your own DIY power over Ethernet, like just stick 12 volts or something down the wire, or you can run 802.3 AF standards compliant PoE, which is 48 volts nominal, like there's a voltage window, it goes way over 50 volts, and have the device just work. And of course we want this in the wireless access point, because I've been using PoE for a very long time and making PoE devices, and it really annoys me having to deal with the selection of what type of PoE, or buying a device that supports 802.3 PoE but doesn't support DIY PoE, or vice versa. I really want devices to be set up so that you can just plug them into your network, you can apply power down the network, and it'll just work. And so hopefully with what Austin is doing, that will be the case, which will be really cool. So our IoT Wi-Fi access point is going to have universal PoE. Maybe we should call it universal PoE or something. So Austin, thank you. There is a package on its way. And hopefully I'll have Austin on the stream as well, because what I'd really like to do is have that little test board that he's made here on the bench, show you how it works, and have Austin on the stream as well to explain it to me and to you. Who else is here? Who else? Stephen, I already said hello to Stephen, Gerald, Michael, and Andrew, who had said good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and Sion is here, of course, Johnny, family plans, David Howes, Luminator, I just skipped a whole lot of things in the chat. Amanda is here, and Mr. Fixit, DIY, Russell. I'm having trouble getting Mr. DIY. I'm having trouble getting down to the bottom of the chat. RP, Imogen Ann is here, and any mules? Cool. I haven't actually read most of the chat. It's I've just been reading down the names to say hello to people. What have I been missing in the chat? All right, so maybe this can be directed by you collectively. I know I say this DIY. No, I don't forget you DIY. I know I say this. I just noticed I've got a Moira. How do you pronounce that? How do you say that word? Moira effect on my shirt. If I move too much, it sort of looks jittery on the camera because of the lines on it. It's probably a really bad shirt to be wearing on camera. Actually, once when I appeared on the 7 PM project, or just the project as it's called now, which is a like a TV news show here in Australia, and I went to the studio, which is down in Chapel Street in Paran, and I was wearing a shirt with stripes on it, like a collared, a proper, like a proper dress shirt, but it had stripes. And they put me in front of the camera, And the shirt was just shimmering like crazy, and someone had to grab a jacket that I could put on over the top to reduce the effect. So I should know better than to wear stripes or these sorts of patterns on camera. So anyway, the point I was getting to was what we're going to cover today. There are a few options. I made a list. I actually have a post-it note list. A list of 3 things, but still it's a list. You can have one thing and consider it a list. If it's something that you get to cross off, then it's a list. I know, maybe if it's one thing, it's just a reminder. If it's more than one thing, so if it's 2 or 3 things, then it's a list. Okay, so, and oven. Oven, yes, that's one. Where's a pen? I want to add something to add oven to my list. Oven. Oven, all right. We'll get to the oven in a second. I'll tell you what the options are. And the thing is that these mostly require a bit of preparation, which is unfortunate. I picked up my daughter this morning and took her to the station, and I was saying to her that I have no idea what to cover on the live stream today. And the problem is that the topics that I want to cover pretty much all require some preparation, like getting the necessary equipment out and setting up tools or whatever, getting software ready. So a lot of things that I want to do, if you sit there and watch me doing the preparation and finding the stuff, it's not exactly riveting. Caffeine. I just saw Imogen say to Chip, caffeine. Why, what is that in response to? Where is Chip? I don't know. Outside the box. This is an interesting one. Mr. Fixit asked, has anyone tried one of the ChatGPT variants to design boards or programming? I have not tried it with either of those things, and it never occurred to me to use it for board design. How would you do that? Okay, I'm going to add this to the list. Chat GPT for programming, and I've seen plenty of people use it for programming or board design. Because ChatGPT is a language model, it's really only, it can describe things. I don't think it can generate images or anything. Imagine how cool it will be when a system like ChatGPT, and there are already plenty of machine learning systems that do video processing and image generation, obviously, like DALL-E and that sort of thing. A lot of these things are siloed, and it'll be so cool when you can say to ChatGPT, for example, generate a schematic that does X, Y, and Z, and have it generate an actual schematic. Okay, so Imogen was replying to Chip in response to an in-person conversation. All right, so that means that this live stream chat is being used as a back channel in a conversation that's happening somewhere else entirely. Yeah, Mitchell says we'd have to have a format to input and output text and data. So if we could use the EDA JSON format, then it would be possible with OpenAI, done router scripts with OpenAI. Yeah, and a number of packages now, like KiCad and Eagle, use XML as their storage format. But anyway, this is all just about taking what is currently a very sandboxed language model and adding to it through an API of some kind. So that sandbox language model, instead of being completely sandboxed, could be integrated with other external systems to interact with them and do all sorts of things like start nuclear war. But all right. Yeah, it feels like Michael said, ChatGPT, please finish John's access point. that is point 2 on the list. Okay. What is my brain doing this morning? You know, I had this morning I had one of those things where I was feeling inexplicably sad. Like, this happens to me from time to time. There is not necessarily a reason that I can nail it down to. It's not that there's been anything bad happen at that immediate time. It's just sometimes, sometimes I get into a mode where if I'm driving along and I don't have a podcast on, I might have just have the radio on, and every single thing, like every song that comes on, just makes me want to cry, even if it's not anything that should have that effect. I was in that mode this morning. Outside the box, good old-fashioned depression. Maybe. Could be coming out that way. Could be emotional dysregulation. I don't know. But anyway, I'm actually feeling really good now. That was earlier this morning. Yes. So, now that I'm here talking to you, I'm happy. So, my list, which now has 5 things on it. The first is that MCP 23017 fault that I was talking about. I think it was last stream, or maybe the stream before. I think it was the last one. And it was the fault where if you assert the high bit input on either of the ports of an MCP 23017 I2C I/O expander, that's a mouthful of a sentence, then occasionally you will get spurious inputs on the other bits on that port. So the way to characterize that is to get an MCP 23017, which is easy because I've got them everywhere. They're in the light switch controller, and I've got breakout boards and all sorts of things. So this is what I had in mind. Get one of those I/O expanders, connect it to an Arduino-like board, could be a RAC32 or something, and run a sketch on it that is simply a tight loop that does nothing but read all of the inputs and output it probably just in a binary form on the serial console, so that we can just look at it and see the state of all of the inputs, and just have it output that as fast as possible. And then get a function generator. I've got a function generator sitting right here, and generate something like a 1 megahertz square wave and send it into the high bit on one of the ports, and just run it for a minute or two and see if we get any values coming in on the other bits that have been messed up, because they shouldn't be changing. It should only be bit 7 that changes. Yeah. Streetwise, hey, thanks for coming along. I hope you had a good week too. So because of the news with that fault on that chip, I'm curious to see it for myself. I mean, so often you hear stories like this, and you hear about this particular thing has this fault, or this does this weird thing, but you've never actually see it yourself. I would really like to have it sitting on my bench with the data coming out of it and see it with my own eyes, actually trigger the fault and see it happen. Outside the box says that might generate a Moira effect. It might, if the effect is really bad, and we get random binary. But I don't think it'll be that bad. I think it'll be, I'm just making up numbers, but just based on what I've heard, it'll probably be like 1 in 1,000 inputs. It causes a problem on other bits. Okay, so that is option the first. Next is, this is coming back to Michael's comment earlier about ChatGPT. Please finish John's access point. It is install OpenWRT and experiment with that. So we've got the access point. Well, I've got just a Raspberry Pi. It doesn't matter what it is. Pull up a Raspberry Pi, load OpenWRT on it, and try doing that config hack to make it do the personal pre-shared keys. So yeah, so that would be a little bit of progress at least, because I've had a number of people say to me that OpenWRT is the solution for this open source wireless access point, and that yes, I can make it work with Debian or Raspbian or Ubuntu or whatever, but why not just use OpenWRT? So cool, that's worth looking at. Next on my list, number 3. It's going to take me half this live stream to go through my list, and I've only got through 2 points so far. Point 3, lab construction. There is progress on lab construction. Well, progress in terms of revised plans, and stuff has been ordered and steelwork should begin arriving this coming week. So I can tell you what my plans are for that. Just show the list to the screen. There. There's the reflow oven, and then I added to the list ChatGPT programming or board design, but that one's not for today because, well, maybe we could play around with it. I don't know. Street Whiz. Oh, that has been a long time. So Street Whiz said, it's been a long time since I caught a live stream. Sorry, life gets in the way. I totally understand, Street Whiz. Life gets in the way. Last live stream I was on, you were trying to fix the flickering on your superhouse sign. Did you resolve that? Yes. That's a stretch of my memory. So that sign is currently sitting, well, it was sitting down in that corner for a while, and then I moved it, and it is now sitting out just behind the clean room area where I've got a whole lot of stuff put aside there in order to put it into its proper location. So that sign will end up back in this room once I have some wall to put it on, but everything's all... Oh, Austin said, what about the new supercomputer from Twitter? Yes. Yes. Dion, hey, thanks for coming along. All right. Oh, DIY, you lost your internet. I am probably going to lose my internet. It's become the tradition. My internet starts turning to crap probably about halfway through the stream. All right, now I'm adding Cray supercomputer to my list. So let's start with the easy ones. The ones that, I've just got to sync Dropbox on my phone so that I can show you some pictures in just a moment. I've got to open Dropbox here. Oh, there are pictures of the reflow oven too. Cool, so I will also show you those. What do I have? I've got to be careful about what pictures I open. Okay, yeah. And where are we? I'm just selecting a few here. I'll show you the reflow oven pictures first. Here we go, getting them up onto the screen. So, what's that? Oh yeah, that's not very exciting. Where am I? Here. Here. Okay. So you might remember, like if I go to this one, this is the reflow oven, the Novasta, which has its cover removed. And the cover that was going over the top of this, you might remember, was this same powder blue sort of... Oh, in fact, you can see it down there. Down in the corner, sitting on the floor, you can see the end of the cover. This was after I had removed it, but before I had painted it. So that was the blue cover. And it was remarkably easy to take off. There were 4... Come on. Why can't I zoom in? Zoom. There it is. You can see there are 4 bolt holes. This is that forms the top part. This is the lid, where half of there is the pipe that comes up, like the ventilation system, and the cover. So this is all structural without the cover on it. The cover is remarkably heavy on its own. It's quite thick steel, and it sits over the top of this and then bolts down onto it. So come on, why is my track, I can't pinch to zoom, it's just moving. What's, oh, lack of focus, maybe that was it. So the cover sits over the top of this frame and then it bolts on with 4 bolts. And so I unbolted it, lifted it off, and the oven is all still sitting there in, oh yeah, Austin said, looks like those fans need some filters. Yeah, there's a fan there that blows into the, just the chamber above it. So this is the chamber above the reflow area, just where the wiring and stuff is. So this is not actually part of the heated area. This is, it's just a void above the heated area, and there's this insulation sort of stuff like fire brick all around it. So this fan here, I think, is just to keep this chamber above it from getting too hot. Okay, anyway, my point is, oh, and there's just another view down into it. There's a view from the end. So this is the inlet side where PCBs come in underneath. And then this is the outlet side where the cooling, you can see there's like a drum fan sort of thing there. That's the part of the cooling stage. Anyway, I took the cover off, I painted it red because red seems to be an appropriate color for a reflow oven. I hope you agree. And I don't think I've got a photo. Oh, hang on, maybe I do have a photo of it. I'll have an older photo. If I go back in my photos here, maybe there might be a, come on, where is it? Trying to find a photo of the reflow oven overall. Oh yeah, here we go. This is the oven as it looked when I first got it inside. It's sitting on a trolley. Now the point is, up the top here, you see this metal shroud that's sitting on top. That, just at the top of that, it's got a tube, and the idea is that a duct comes down and is attached to that. So this is part of the fume extraction system. And that I've now sprayed white. So it's like a pure gloss white. So now this cover is red, this is white, and then the rest of this, I think including this front panel here, is all going to be sprayed white. So the whole oven will be white, apart from red. Austin says red means stop. Yes, but it also, yes, red means hot. So anyway, I put a thing on Discord a day or two ago saying that I need some kind of a joke logo or name for this. So it's got the Nova Star logo on it, but Nova Star don't seem to be particularly interested. They would be kind of curious to see it in action and maybe to, etc. I've had a couple of emails from them, but they don't really seem to care less. The fact that this is an oven that seems to have been built within the first year of when their company was founded, I think, or it was maybe in the second year. So this is one of the first ovens that they ever built, and it's now functional again, and they don't care. I thought they would, they'd be very interested to see it. But anyway, so my interest in keeping the Nova Star brand has disappeared, and I want to put a fun brand on it. Maybe a, so someone suggested having Steve in the logo, and so I thought of maybe Steve holding a cigarette lighter or Steve holding a match. And I was talking to Andy about it last night, and he said that if I set up some kind of an online monitoring system for this so that it's connected to the internet, not for control, just for monitoring, so it then I could call it the World Wide Webber, which I thought was very funny. Oh, Austin says we have a silkscreen logo, Steve, that would work. Yeah, Steve brand reflow ovens. Yeah. So the first thing I thought of was just to call it the Bernie Boy, or maybe Toasty McToastface. I don't know. There's got to be all sorts of joke names. But what I want to do is paint it all up so it looks brand new, like absolutely perfect, brand new again, straight out of the factory, and do proper branding on it, but joke branding. I don't know what the branding's going to be though. Anyway, that's your job. Everyone here, contribute. You need to come up with some ideas for what to call this thing. Yeah, superstar. Imogen says, oh my god, there are so many good options. Okay, well, oh Michael, I love this one. Gloria Steve Reflow Oven Manufacturing Concern. Ah, that's brilliant. Hang on, I'm gonna open Evernote because I think I'm going to be taking some notes from along here. Reflow blaster and Steve with a flamethrower. Okay. New note. I've just got to copy and paste some of this. Reflow blaster instead of reflow master. Michael says Mr. Sparkle. Yes, Mr. Sparkle. PCB Barbie says Aaron. I am copying these into. Gotta delete that. Delete. Sorry, I'm copying these for future reference. Can we call it Hot Steve? Super Barbie. What Gerald said, where was Gerald's comment? Yes, reflow blaster and Steve with flamethrower, but there was I liked Michael's maybe that can be the name of the company. Glorious Steve Reflow Oven Manufacturing Concern Proprietary Limited. But then there needs to be a name for the oven itself. Stick burn. Funny. Toaster. Back to the red. Not a toaster. Okay. Hangout okay? Please. Out again. This is experience going for a seriously think a mobile. Yeah, stream is failing. The NBN here is total rubbish. Imogen says just to stream to 240 pixels, maybe that'll work. All right, it looks like YouTube has finally received some data. Now, okay, I am just going to keep talking and maybe get somewhere. Anyway, my point is the reflow oven, now that I've got it functional, I'm trying to make it pretty. So it's the same as my approach to PCB routing, which is first make it work, second make it pretty. Got to solve the problem first. Now, reflow, call it flow with Steve. Easy bake. Yes, maybe I should. I need some kind of reference to an easy bake oven. Still breaking at 240. I can't believe it's not buffering. Says Michael. All right. Where? Okay. So, reflow oven. My cache is at 80%. It looks like the ATEM is actually pushing data out now, which is nice. The buffer is slowly starting to come down. It's on 65% cache. Data rate is back up. So I just can't push the data out of the building fast enough. So I think that, yes, as I was saying before, and I don't know if anybody could hear me at the time, I'm going to undertake that before next weekend, I am going to buy a 4G mobile internet device so that I can do live streams, because NBN is just such a ridiculous piece of crap. Yeah, you got to talk really, really fast. Huh. Okay, now the other thing. The pictures from yesterday, I'm going to open up a few, and this one, and open. All right, so I'm about to, ATEM finally caught up, yes. It says the cache is empty, and I'm on air. It says, I'm getting a warning in YouTube saying, the stream's current bit rate, which is 15 megabits a second, is lower than the recommended bit rate. What? 15 megabits a second is too low? How much data do they expect me to be pushing out? Yeah, terrible. Measure twice, burn once. The reflow oven suggestions are still coming in. Thanks, Imogen. I'm adding that one to my list. Okay, running at 1.5 to catch up. All right, so if I speak really, really quickly, everybody who is running on accelerated to catch up, we'll have trouble following what I'm saying. So this is a part of computing history. And so backing up just a fraction, this is touching on the clean room construction. One of the limitations that I have with constructing a clean room, one of the major considerations, I should say, is the overall ceiling height in the factory, which is, well, the roof is on a bit of a slope. The high part is on the south side of the building, the low part is on the north side of the building. The roof slopes down, and the clean room is on the north half of my part of the factory, so it's where the roof is slightly down, and I think from memory it's like 4.2 meters, give or take. And what I want to do is have enough room above the clean room to have a mezzanine for storage, because that will give me a huge amount of extra space. And in order to, so this is one of those, yak shaving things. The end result of the yak shaving is that, getting that rack. I'm setting the scene here. Now, to make the mezzanine above the clean room as usable as possible, I want to bring the clean room ceiling down, and not down so that it's, a real problem. But I can't have 2.7 meter of ceilings or something in there, because there just won't be much room above for the mezzanine area. So it needs to be a ceiling height that it's got to allow for a fair thickness of the structure as well, because there will be steel framing going across, and then there are going to be purlins that the floor will sit on for the mezzanine above it. So then I end up losing 220 220 millimeters or 240 millimeters or something of thickness. So I've got to account for every vertical centimeter basically and try to make the ceiling in the clean room at a reasonable height. It needs to be high enough to be comfortable, obviously. I don't want it to feel like the ceiling's right above your head, and without being so high that it takes away from the space above. So the upshot of that is I need to bring the ceiling in the clean room down. Probably, I think my goal is going to be to set it at around 2.3 meters, maybe 2.2. 2.2 would be better, but it might feel claustrophobic, and I don't really want the room to feel really, you know, like you've got a duct to walk into it. Now, 2.2 meters is high. There are not very many people that are going to bump their head on a 2.2 meter ceiling, but it just feels really restrictive. So I want to get it somewhere in that 2.2 to 2.3 meter height. And ooh, sorry, I am. Aaron said this is an oven name suggestion. Hot Down Under. It could also be an awesome health and safety sign for it. Okay, I'm sticking that in my list. Which reminds me, I want to get some funny health and safety signs for the place. You know, there are the classics like hang on, like the sign that says something like, "This machine cannot tell the difference between metal and flesh, nor does it care." You know, that sort of thing. And do not look into laser with remaining eye. You know, I want to get a few of those sorts of signs. Anyway, yes. So Austin said, this is a good point for people talking about freedom units. 2.2 meters is 7.21 blah 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 feet. Yeah. So if I have a 2.2 meter ceiling, unless you're more than 7 feet tall, you're not going to bump your head on it, but it still feels like it's pushing down on you. And yeah, I just don't want that. I want enough room overhead that it feels comfortable. Now, there are regulations in Australia in terms of minimum ceiling heights and things, but those heights apply to what are called habitable areas. You know, things like lounge rooms and offices and bedrooms and those sorts of things. Service areas don't need to comply with that. So a room that is essentially a machine room is not really like a habitable area as such. So anyway, there are things that I need to make sure that I comply with, but that's not such a problem for the clean room. Cleanish room. Yeah, Kevin says, what's the BCA say about ceiling heights? Yes, I've read up on the regulations on that, and it's okay. I can make it 2.2 if I wanted to. But anyway, the point of all of this is, I've just gone off for the last 5 minutes on background. The point of all of this, I have a very tall server rack currently in there, and some of you will have seen it when I've been waving the camera around in the past. It's a 42, or no, I think it might be a 45 rack unit rack. It's really, really high. And then it's got an exhaust system in the top of it for like a cooling extraction system. And it's got a base in the bottom, obviously, with adjustable feet and extensions and things like anti-tip over stuff. It's a really, really high rack. And what I need to do is allow for the height of the rack plus access above the rack in planning for the ceiling height. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been actively thinking about replacing that rack with a shorter one. And I actually mentioned this to Lachlan. I said it maybe a week or two ago that I really need a slightly shorter rack. because then I can bring the ceiling down a little bit and everything will just fit nicely. And then right after I had said that, my friend Andy said, "Oh, I've got this Cray research rack sitting in storage and I need to get rid of it. Do you have any use for it?" And I said, yes, I sure do. So this is I think it's 36 unit rack. This is it standing upright on the forklift when I was unloading it yesterday. This is actually out of this was before I got it on the forklift. We're going back in time. So this was it sitting on the back of the car. And look, you can see the wavy front on it here. It's got the whole front of the rack is shaped, where's the camera, is like a wave. It looks really cool. And it is ridiculously heavy. This is probably one of the heaviest racks that I've ever seen. The construction, like that door alone, probably weighs nearly as much as some racks on their own. Like a lightweight rack wouldn't weigh much more than this door. It is super heavy. And the whole thing is, yeah, you can feel it when it's on this is on the back of a Hilux. You can feel it driving down the road. There is a lot of weight in that. So the history of this is that it is, oh yes, Gerald said, yeah, that's right. So Emily Velasco has stickers that say "Big Wet Meat Sack Go" bzzz, to stick on the electrical panel. Yeah, I should get some of Emily's stickers. I'm adding a note to myself. Thanks, Cheryl, for reminding me. I'll see what else Emily has available too. Right now, this rack was previously part of. Yes, Stephen, that's another good one. This machine will kill you and it will hurt the entire time you are dying. Yeah. Yeah, I love those funny safety signs. Back to the story. Stop waving shiny things in front of me. My squirrel brain will chase them. This rack was originally part of a Cray supercomputer that was used at the Department of Defense. And Andy told me the serial number on it. It was Cray number 105, I think he said. I'm going to have to get I don't even know what model of, which model of Cray it was. So I'm going to have to get some details from him, maybe make up like a little historical note or something to stick on it. So in any case, this chassis was originally part of a Department of Defense Cray supercomputer. So it is a piece of computing history. It's really, really cool to have this. So yes, Outside the Box says it's a museum piece. It is. It's a sort of thing that could legitimately be in a museum, but I'm going to bring it back to life. Not doing its original job, of course. It's got some interesting things in it. It's been fitted out. So this is the back of it. It's lying on its side at this point. In fact, yes, I'll rotate the image so that, no, that messes with my brain even more. Oh no, I think it's workable. So this is almost in its upright orientation if we were looking up at it from the back. So it's got this enormous power cable coming into it, which goes to, one of those power, like a 3-phase lead, but its own, I think it might be single phase. I'm not sure, I can't remember what the thing is like, but it's, one of those huge power things that you plug in and then twist on. So it's got a power distribution built into it. You can see up the left side here, there is the PDU. It's got a whole lot of these IEC sockets, and then there are what look like DB9 connectors, I think, all the way along here as well. I don't know what's the deal with those. I haven't investigated. and then power management and all of that sort of thing down the bottom. So in the bottom of the rack, in fact, if we have a look at this photo, you can see there it's got, and these are earthing tie down points, I think, on the right, this big bar that goes up here. So power into the back of the rack here, and then all of the power management and interface stuff here. And then the rack would have been filled with whatever it is that makes a Cray supercomputer. Yes. Scott, I concur. I concur with your analysis. But he has some good stickers for sale. I know, that's the thing that has stopped me from buying stickers from Aave. Yeah. I like his stickers, but that's about it. Potentially serial sockets connected to a relays to turn individual sockets on and off, Michael said. Potentially, yeah. I got this here last night and unloaded it, so it's currently sitting in the back of the factory. And it's on huge casters, so it's really easy to move around. It's got really big wheels on the bottom. In fact, you can see them in this view here. It's got these big wheels, very, very heavy duty, and then adjustable feet, obviously, to lift it off the wheels and sit it properly in place on the floor. So, but I haven't investigated at all, so I don't know how any of this is connected. I don't know where this power cable goes or what's inside here. There was a 5 volt 30 amp voltage regulator that a board that Andy had, but that may or may not have come out of this. Casters big enough to be defeated by a lone cable tie? No, I don't think so. It rolls around pretty easily for something that is built like a tank and weighs half as much as a tank. So that is the story of the Cray supercomputer rack, which is going to go into the clean room in the location of the current rack. All right, and what this will allow, because this is significantly shorter than the current rack, it will give me total flexibility in setting the ceiling height wherever I want it. Scott says, pretty sure cable tie is a thing for bicycle wheels, yeah. Is cable tie here? I think cable tie is probably out on his bike right now. He's probably up on Mount Dandenong, is my guess, because it is a beautiful day here in Melbourne, and it doesn't seem to matter what the weather is. Cable tie likes being out on his bike, going for a punt up the hill and then a rocket ship descent back down again. Now, what was I getting to? Oh yes, okay. Next thing I'm going to try launching. Michael said, just about all server racks on Navy ships everywhere in the world are made by a little company up near Buffalo, New York. You're not allowed to use anything else. Interesting. What am I doing? That's right, launching Fusion 360. So that'll take a while. I press the button, but Fusion, it takes so long to load. Now, where are we? Yes, Stephen, I'm just looking back in the chat. I really do want to get one of those stickers that say, this machine will kill you and it will hurt the entire time you're dying. That applies to a surprising number of machines. Now, over the last year or so, I have gone through many, many different ideas of construction methods for the cleanish room. How to actually build the walls. And there are a few options. The obvious option is a simple stick frame, like classic domestic construction methods. And so like build a pine frame, clad it with plasterboard, etc., just like building any other internal wall. Oh, interesting. So Fusion 360 may be in the process of doing server updates at the moment. Where am I looking for? I'm looking for a project before I bring it up on screen. Here we go. Cleanish room 2. Okay. Now for the purposes of figuring out figuring out the geometry of how all this fits together, I have pulled this into Fusion 360 and I'm going to bring it up where you can see it in just a jiffy. I know I do need that view and I need that view. Okay, so very quick reiteration. Build a simple simple walls, etc., which is a reasonably straightforward way of doing it. The main issue is the cost of the beams required to get the span across the clean room, because the clean room is quite wide. It's about 5.2 meters at the, from the wall to the division down the middle. Or about 5.1, something like that. And running joists across here, like LVL beams or whatever, the depth of the beams is significant, the number of beams that you need is significant, and then the cost becomes significant. So doing it as regular timber walls with LVL beams across it in order to have a mezzanine above it becomes quite expensive. So hang on, I'm just going to turn off sketches and I'll give you some explanation of what you're looking at in just a moment. So then, of course, I was talking about using cool room panels, and that is an interesting option, but there are some issues. One is insurance. These days, cool room panels, which are foam sandwich with stainless steel on both, not stainless steel, Colorbond steel on both faces, are becoming an insurance problem because they can be a fire hazard, which means that you need to get special fire retardant cool room panels, and they cost significantly more. And then the issue, once again, I've got is the span. So using cool room panels as a combination of structural material and final finish has some issues. And it also ends up being reasonably expensive by the time I do a thing this big. Mr. Fixit says use metal studs, easy to run cable. Yep. And so, sorry, I was just skipping back through chat. All right, I will try to stay focused. So anyway, in recent times, Lachlan has fallen in love with Dexian pallet racking, and there was a couple of weeks ago, Ben, one of the guys from Melbourne Eastern Suburbs Hackers, was clearing out his factory just down the road, not far from here, in Boronia, and getting rid of a heap of Dexian pallet racking. And Lachlan and I went down to have a look at it, and they negotiated a purchase on the spot, and Lachlan just bought the whole thing. And what Ben was getting rid of was pallet racking and a mezzanine, and so Lachlan is using that material to build a mezzanine out in the back part of the factory, like in his area. And it really got us talking about using Dexian pallet racking as a structural material to build the basic structure and then to simply clad it. And so what this model is about is using pallet racking. Now if I turn off that one, yeah, yes. So what you can see here, this is a very poor model, it's just to show basically where it goes. Each pair of these is a set of uprights, and then there would be beams across as well. The beams aren't in this particular model, but if I turn back on the main area, this area at the front here, this is the big glass wall, which is just to my left. That's where all the big glass sliding doors are. In there you can see the location of the server rack. Part of this little thicker stub here is the existing cement block wall. Now the wall actually comes forward from there as well, but I haven't included that in the model. This white area where I'm spinning the cursor around, like I am sitting right here where the cursor is at the moment. This is my front lab area in here. this area here is the loading dock, which is where I've got workbenches and things. But I haven't bothered with the model because that's not the point of this. I was just doing this to figure out where I could put, well, the major issue is that you see these buttresses here. These are buttresses in the wall of the factory. It's a cement block wall, but then periodically it has these buttresses sticking out. And what I was trying to do was work out where I could fit the uprights for the pallet racking that would clear the buttresses and keep all of the spacing as it needed to be. So this is the current plan. Use these pallet racking uprights, which will actually go up to here somewhere. They don't stop at this point. This is just, once again, for the positioning purposes. They will go all the way up to here somewhere, and then there will be, I know this probably looks weird because I've got the camera in orthographic view. Let's go for perspective view. Now it'll look a little bit more realistic and probably stop messing with your mind as much. Now you can see here in the middle of the room, you can see just poking up the top there is the top of pairs of the uprights of the pallet racking. So the idea is that this would be built by assembling the structure, and then I've got 4.2 meter beams to go across here. So the beams haven't arrived yet, but I've bought them. They are being shipped from Sydney, and they're basically the longest beams that you can possibly get that are Dexian compatible without going into totally ridiculous custom made stuff. So they're not exactly 4.2 meters. They're like 4,217 millimeters or something in length. So there would be Dexian beams going across here. So the plan is build the skeleton out of the Dexian pallet racking, and then line it with plasterboard so that from the inside it'll just look like, you know, a regular plaster wall. It'll be a nice smooth wall, and the same on this side as well. So the whole thing will be plasterboard lined. Now you'll also notice this area at the back where this thing comes up here. At the moment, the back of my area is where this wall is represented by this wall. So my packing bench is down here, and all my storage shelves and things are along here. The reflow oven is currently sitting right about here. The pick and place machines are in here. But I've been discussing with Lachlan taking some more space at the back of the factory. So the plan that we currently have is that my cleanish room, which currently ends about here, is going to push back another couple of meters into his area, and then he's going to have a pallet rack on this side. So this dividing wall is going to be on the back of a pallet rack that he will have. So it's just going to be a divider between the two areas. And then there will be, so there'll be beams across, say from here, across to here. Yeah, so there'll be lots of beams running across, forming the ceiling of the clean room. And then there'll be purlins that run across the tops of those, running lengthwise. And then there'll be floor sheeting on top of that, so that will form the structure. And the interesting thing is that with the 4.2 meter beams, you can see these uprights are against the wall and they are inset within the buttresses. And then we have a row of the pallet racking uprights in the dead center of the factory. And then we have another row against this wall in between the buttresses. And with the 4.2 meter beams, that span fits perfectly. So what this means is I'm actually going to end up with a mezzanine area on the right hand side as well. So I'm going to gain a huge amount of floor space. Yeah, a little bit hard to represent like this. And you can see that I'm doglegging the wall around the server rack. So the server rack will be visible through the glass wall, but then the wall will scooch around behind it and then head straight down here. And that dividing wall will be in the exact center of the factory instead of being offset, which is what was my original plan. Right. Use metal studs easier on cable. Yep. Andrew says, I use Dexian, it is awesome. Yes. And Michael says Dexian stuff is definitely A+. Yep. Stephen says, leave the start open where the big roller door is so you can forklift things up to the mezzanine by opening the door. Yep. Scott says, be very careful and do the calculations of load bearing ability in the middle of the mezzanine floor. Yes, that is important. So the Dexian beams come with load ratings, which is very helpful. But because this is a large span, you're right. It's the middle part of the span that will be under the most stress. So I need to be careful about all the load ratings and things. Now, there was the comment about forklift things up to the mezzanine. Stephen W. said yes. Yes. So this is where the big roller door is, and then it'll be full height. So the roller door actually comes up, like if we're looking straight on the height at the front is actually like right up here somewhere. The front roller door is enormous. And then there will be the mezzanine that comes across from this point somewhere, and being able to forklift stuff up into it or winch it up or something would be very, very useful, because the ceiling goes right up to here. So one thing I thought would be really cool would be to get an electric winch, you know, like from a four-wheel drive winch, and mount that on a track up on the ceiling, up on the high roof, up 4.2 meters or whatever, and be able to just put slings around stuff and press the button and hoist it up onto the mezzanine area. Yeah. Scott says, I've seen in person what happens when you overload pallet racking unevenly. You don't want those walls trying to become friends with each other. No. They need to be kept apart. Yes. Keep them separated. Yeah. Luckily, there are some attachment points. So with pallet racking, it needs to be bolted into the floor, but it can also be bolted into the walls. I can put brackets on the walls and do all that sort of thing as well. So yeah, a chain hoist would do it, Max said. Yep. Chip said, a big wall hug. Yeah, the wall's going, hello. Got to keep them apart. Now, yeah, so upshot of all of that is that there is a Dexian dealer, like a place that buys and sells second-hand pallet racking and new pallet racking, over our back fence. So getting access to Dexian stuff is really super easy. It's not fun to carry, but with a couple of people we could literally pick stuff up and just walk it around the corner rather than needing a truck to deliver it. Max said, four-wheel drive and boat trailer winches are not okay for lifting. Yeah, that's true. There are electric hoists, though, that are designed for that purpose. So, what was I thinking? That's right. So, the beams are on order. They should be arriving on a truck later this coming week. And then, we already have some of the uprights. I think we've got 5 of the uprights that we need, and I need to get a few more. So I'll get the other uprights from the Dexian dealer just around the back. The long beams, the 4.2s, the dealer over the back fence could get them, but they couldn't get them for, I think it was another 2 months or so. There was a bit of a lead time, and I found a place in Sydney that had them in stock and they could ship them for a reasonable price. So I just ordered them from Sydney. So the long beams are coming from Sydney, and the uprights and things, which are just common off the bog standard 840mm deep pallet racking uprights. You can get them everywhere. They're in like every second factory in Bayswater. I'm just getting them. I'll get them locally because they're the easy thing. Yes. So, where am I? Where's my list of things? All right, lab construction, talked about that. Oven, talked about that. And if people have more ideas for a name, I really like the, I think for the company name, I'm going to use Michael's suggestion of Glorious Steve Reflow Oven Manufacturing Concern. But then I need a name for the model of the oven, which could be Bernie Boy or something else. So, where am I? Okay, let's quit out of... No, I don't want to save. I'll quit out of Fusion. So, friends, what else are we talking about today? Firemaster 5000, Stephen says. Yeah. I am going to go to the fridge and get myself a drink because I can... Oh, I can feel that I'm going to need one. I stuck this drink in the freezer portion, in the freezer earlier before the stream started. And I don't think it's got any ice in it yet, but it's... Oh yes, it does. It's got a big chunk of ice in it, which is great. The colder the drink, the better. Pepperoni pizza reflow oven. Okay. I do need to have some of this. Muting now. That's better. Oh. I saw this last night. I've got to I've got to show this. I named my toilet Jim. This is just in terms of funny names for things. I named my toilet Jim instead of John. Everyone is so impressed when I tell them I go to the gym every morning. Silly things amuse me. Where was I? Oh, this was not on my list, but it's actually kind of interesting. This thing is a one-handed adapter for a PlayStation controller. So I think I might have mentioned this before. Caleb Craft has a thing called the Controller Project. In fact, I'm going to grab it and bring it over, where he acts as a, how do I explain it? Basically like a clearing point. Oh, I need to get this other camera in focus so I can show you the real thing. For making adaptive controllers or customizations for controllers so that they can be used by people with disabilities. And I'll switch to the other view at the moment. What you're looking at right now on screen is just a photo, but in a second I will show you this. So this is the live camera view of the real thing. And there are a couple more parts here. And this is a really, really clever thing. So this is all 3D printed. It fits over the top of the PlayStation controller. And you can see there is a structure here that rotates this way and it moves this way. And what that does is push on the joystick. So by planting the, I'll put this foot in place. by planting the controller down just with one hand, you can use, this one is set up for right hand use. So with this I can use my right hand to move the right joystick. I can move the entire controller and that moves the left joystick. So with one hand you can move both joysticks, and then you've got access to the normal buttons on the right here. And it's a little bit hard to see because it's black on black, but there are 4 extra buttons here that translate motion across to the left side. So you can see if I press this one, it's pushing the left button on the controller on the left, and that is pushing the down button, that one is the up button, and that one is the right button. So with one hand, you can press every single button on the controller and move the joystick. And it's got on the back a trigger extension, so you can use the right trigger as you normally would. So there's, you know, the 2 right triggers, and then over here there is a second trigger bar which translates through to the left side and it activates the left side triggers. So one-handed control of all of the inputs on a PlayStation controller. So the idea is that this is for someone who might have you know, problems with their left hand and can't use that at all, PlayStation controller, and this allows them to do it, which is really, really cool. And it comes with a couple of different things. So this is just like a friction based base that you can, if I was using this, I would stick, you know, sit it on my leg, or you clip that off, and this is an actual leg strap. So this clips on to the base, and then you can have a leg strap that goes through this. So that, if I pull this back off again, if I can, I need to do a little bit of trimming on this print. It's clipped in place. Anyway, what you do is you have this on a leg strap, and then, so this would be attached to your leg, and then you can move the controller like that, and it's got a firm anchor point. So very, very cool. Anyway, you wanted a right-handed PlayStation adapter, and so Caleb asked if I could print it and post it locally, and yeah, so I've done that. I've got to post it, so I'll probably post it off tomorrow when the post office opens. Michael said it's now on there permanently. No, I'll fix it up. I need to do a little bit of cleaning up of the print before. Am I showing anything? Tiny Pico. Oh, yeah, you can see the word Tiny Pico on a note there. No, there's nothing else confidential shown in that. Buffering again? No. Hopefully no buffering. I put the controller down so it stopped the stream. I love drinks that are so cold that they're frosty. Right. Is it a one-armed bandit? What's with all the retracted messages? I don't know. Maybe that was in relation to that toilet picture. I don't know. Where are we? Right. Yeah, this has been a jumping around stream. In fact, what I'll do is control the controller project. This is, if it'll load. Yeah, I think my internet is not having a good time. Oops, no, there. So this is Caleb's site. I'm going to drop this in the chat. If anybody is interested in this sort of thing, in assistive technology, then check this out. So the controller project has a list of all of these modifications. So what you can do is look for the particular device that you have, and oh yeah, and it's sponsored by Able Gamers, which is really cool. And Prusa and Adafruit have also contributed to it. which is very nice. So, mod library, okay. So what you can do, for example, is go into PlayStation. Say, I have a PlayStation, and oh, there's a clicker helper. So that's a very simple thing that just fits around that joystick and makes it easier to click. And then this is the one-handed DualShock. So this is what I've just printed, except I printed it in black. And also you can see this one is set up for a left hand, and I printed the right hand version. What's that one? That's a DualSense mod. And yeah, anyway, it's a really interesting resource because it lets you one-handed Xbox controller. So if you have a particular need, you have a type of controller that you want to be able to modify to adapt to suit your own particular requirements or the requirements of someone that you know, you can come along here and look at all these different modifications, and many of them are posted with the design files as well, so you can use them as a starting point to modify and make them do what it is that you want it to do. Now this is interesting, adaptive controller mods. So, and then if you need something yourself, you can request a mod and say what it is that you need, where you are, and then Caleb either prints and sends it to you, or or find someone nearby. And in this particular case, it's someone in Australia who requested the PlayStation mod, so I've printed it. Anyway, it's a very, very cool thing, and it's yeah, I'm really impressed by what Caleb has done, and anything I can do to support him, I am very happy to do. Now, there was a question about OXRS back in here, which was Mr. Fixit said, are you using OXRS lighting in the lab? The answer is yes. I have a button on the wall. I've got a light switch controller. It's running the OXRS firmware, and that is running into it's a Rack32 running OXRS firmware. It's connecting to Node Red. Well, it's connecting to MQTT, and then Node Red is using the messages in MQTT to control all the lighting. And it's all, I also have voice control linked into it. So if anyone has a particular Amazon brand of voice assistant nearby, maybe hit mute, or maybe I should hit my own mute, because what I will try that. I will mute out the wake word, and hopefully this will do it. So I will try turn off the office lights, and hopefully, yes. And now we have the mood lighting.
Your Amazon account is linked to Amazon US, where you can shop in US.
I don't like it when it you get it to do something and then it was just telling me about shopping in either US dollars or in pesos. Right. Where are we? Mr. Fixit said, that was me. I can't seem to spell OXRS today. What? But you did spell it today. OXRS lighting. Oh, okay. You retracted your own message. Right. I've got it. Took me a little while to figure out what was going on. Scott said, but did you record the install and setup of the lab lighting control for an upcoming video? No, I didn't. I'm just wondering if there is anything that would have been worth recording. The only thing that would have been worth recording out of it is the setup of the Z-Wave portion of it, and I'm going to do that as a special dedicated thing. And that's a little bit of an oddball thing. It's not necessarily something that many people have. I happen to have 2 pallet loads of Z-Wave power boards. And so I'm going to do a Z-Wave thing. I'm going to put those up for sale at some point. I really need to sell a whole bunch of them. And if anybody is interested in the Z-Wave stuff, then I'm going to have some bargains for you very, very soon. Hey, look at the lighting in there. In fact, what I'm going to do is turn on the desk lamp at Tom's desk. What I need to do is I need to separate out the lighting. In fact, I wonder if I can do this. Separate out the lighting for the 3D printer, which is directly behind me, so that can be turned on when the main room lights are turned off. That would give some interesting colour. Let's see. In fact, I could do this live on stream. Let's mess around with this a little bit. Loading nodes. I'm just going to get this up onto the captured screen. All right, now this is part of my Node Red installation. So I've got the light switch controller here, which is in the rack. That's the OXRS light switch controller with a rack 32. And it is reading light switches, and then, oh no, this is the subscription to the MQTT topic that the light switch controller publishes to. So this is where we detect the events coming in. It's doing a JSON conversion. Gavin says, play some Barry White music and candles for effect. Yeah. Then Office Light. Okay, so this is a dashboard item that appears in the Node Red dashboard. And then there's a switch, which can be turned on or off. And then a global variable, which is referenced elsewhere, so that that variable is actually referenced back up in the function, I think. And then there is a switch that creates the messages, so that turns these things on or off. So I've got control over hot air, oscilloscope, etc. And that's all voice controlled. So these grey things here, these are the connections to the voice assistant input. So I can do things like turn my oscilloscope on by asking for it to be turned on, or PCB preheater and power supply and all of those sorts of things. So yeah, even the ultrasonic cleaner, I can control that with voice control. So we've got printer 1 lights. What I should do is, so I want it to be activated. Let's, what shall I do here? On message, off message, lab lights. All right, this is going to be a really nasty, crude thing, but I'm going to copy this and stick it down here. This is just going to be a way of temporarily overriding lab lights, and I'm going to make that a new thing. Super lab default in the group, that'll do, and I'm going to call it printer lights. And yeah, I don't care about any of the rest of that. I don't want voice control for it. I'll take that down to here. What have I got? It's just a switch. Oh, that's just for converting the payload. Now if I do a deploy, let's see. Yeah. Now, if I go to that and UI, I was going to do it on my phone, but then you can't see what's going on. So if I go to UI, will it get it? Okay. Lab lights, printer lights, can I turn them on? Hey, it worked. How about that? So I now have independent control. Turn the printer light off, printer light on. Okay, so I now have independent control of the printer light. But if I if I use my voice assistant to turn the printer lights on and off, they will follow whatever the room does, but then I can override it. So that's kind of an acceptable thing. Oh, Scott says you're not running the latest version of Node Red yet, or just not using the newest features. I'm definitely not using the newest features. That's a good question. What version of Node-RED am I running? This is running out of Docker on the Synology NAS. So where are we? How do I even find out what version of Node-RED it is? 302, v302. I think that is pretty recent. Node-RED releases. Let's see what we're up to. 302? Yes. So that is the... oh, hang on. Yeah, so we've got three release 4, release 3.x. Well, end of that doesn't exactly tell me. What I want to know is what is the current release. I should have just gone to the first link. 302 maintenance release. Yeah, so I am running the latest Node-RED. But you're right. Was it Scott who said it? Yes, or just not using the newest features. Okay, so what are some of the newest features? I've heard that there are some really cool things with grouping, but what are some of the highlights of the current Node-RED that I should know about? Oh, you can get rid of the JSON nodes now. All right. So at the moment we've got, in this case, for example, light switch controller, which is just a subscription to the stat topic. And then this is a node that converts between a JSON string and an object. Oh, that's right, because I think functions now can take JSON natively, can't they? Is that the... and junctions are awesome for making things neater, yes. So you can now have junctions in the links between things, and yeah, there seem to be a whole lot of quality of life improvements, which are definitely worthwhile. And one of the things that I've wanted for a long time is a way of doing visual grouping, and I'm pretty sure that is now in it as well. So what you can do, for example, is make a frame that goes around things, similar to the way that I do things in schematics, where different parts of the schematic are in different visual blocks, and there might be links between them, but it gives you a representation of the functional segmentation. And so I think now what you can do is put a frame around different things and group them, and then give that frame a different background and that sort of stuff. So you can have like chunks of functionality visually separated. Scott says, look at the yellow notice on that MQTT node. Where is the MQTT node? Was it in here? This option is deprecated. Please use the new auto detect mode. Output is set to auto detect string or buffer. Auto detect. Okay, so it's already set to auto detect. Use the new auto detect mode. Oh, Peter Kirkhoff said Z-Wave to MQTT is cool. Yeah, that's what I'm using. There's where is it? Z-Wave to MQTT. Or am I using that? I can't even remember. Somewhere. Oh, hang on. Oops. You would have heard my stomach then. Okay, so another thing that you would be interested in seeing, it's in a different window. I'm just going to bring it up. No, not that, not that. Desmoda. I'm just looking for... No. Okay, before I do this, I'm going to change cameras so that you can't see what's on screen, because I'm about to be unhiding a whole lot of things, and I don't know what they're going to pop up onto. Okay, here we go. I will bring this up into your view. Here is Z-Wave to MQTT. And boom. Yeah, so this is what I'm using for the actual Z-Wave interface. I have got good news for Stephen W. and for Chip, which is that I have pizza for lunch today. I got pizza last night for dinner, and then brought along the leftovers so that I could have it for lunch today. And my air fryer is here as well. I've brought along kitchen stuff. So I've got I've got pretty good cooking facilities here at the lab now. And and an air fryer for reheating pizza is the best. It's amazing. Like if you put pizza into an air fryer and give it maybe 3 minutes in an air fryer, it will come out seeming as if it has just come from the pizza shop. It's amazing. It's so much better than heating it up in something like a microwave. It's just, I don't know why, but it's the way it heats it. You end up with the right sort of texture and you don't get any sogginess or anything. It does not seem like reheated pizza. It seems like brand new fresh pizza. It's amazing. Yeah. Oh, Scott says, I have a couple of slices of very good pizza to warm up for dinner as soon as the stream is over. Yep. Oh, and Imogen says, heck yes to the air fryer. 100% agreed on pizza reheating in the air fryer. It is worth getting an air fryer just for reheating pizza. It is amazing. What am I doing? That's right. So Z-Wave to MQTT. Who was it that mentioned that? Peter. That's right. Peter mentioned Z-Wave to MQTT is cool. So this is what I'm using. And what you can see here, each one of these rows is a Z-Wave device here in the lab. And they are things like, most of these are 6-way power boards. So there are, as you can see, there are a whole lot of 6-way power boards. And most things in here, in the lab, are running off the Z-Wave power boards, which are linked to MQTT. So, Chip says this has become a pizza show. Yes. So, for example, Greenwave Reality, this one. And I've got, this is a 6-way power board. It's the way I've named these, it's GWPN6 is Greenwave Power Node 6, which is a 6-way power board, and it is number 11. And then I've put a location of under desk 1, and then there are a whole lot, and then it's got all of the outputs. So binary switch, this is the state of the outputs in the power board, and how much current. Oh no, it's current value. So target value, current value, binary switch, and they're all power monitored. So if I go into meter, you can see, for example, there is 20.1 watts being used on the first output of that power board, and there is 77 watts being used on the final output of that power board, and nothing on the others. So I've got power monitoring and control of every single outlet. And then I've got these mounted under the workbenches all the way around. And this is how I'm doing things like doing voice control of every individual device, like the soldering iron, the hot air, the preheater, the oscilloscope, bench power supplies. They're all plugged into different outlets in these Z-Wave power boards, and all controllable and all monitorable. Oh, Mike V said, what is this? Not familiar with this. Yeah, so this is something that I am going to do a video about because it definitely warrants it. So this thing that we're actually looking at here, Z-Wave to MQTT. It is a bridge. What it does is bridge between Z-Wave devices or a Z-Wave network. And Z-Wave is mesh based, which means that if you have a whole lot of Z-Wave devices, they pass signals between each other, and so you can have devices down through a very big building. You don't necessarily need a connection all the way to the far devices. As long as the message can pass along the chain, it'll get there. So what this does is, in this case I'm running it on a Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi is connected to the Z-Wave network on one side, and it is communicating with all of these devices. And on the other side, it is subscribed to MQTT, and it is publishing to topics. So what it's doing is publishing data like the power consumption that's being reported by the devices, and it is subscribed to topics that allow commands to be sent out to the devices. So it's sitting in the middle between MQTT and the rest of my home automation, my office automation system, and the Z-Wave wireless network, and all of these devices. Yep, mesh network, radio comms, exactly. So this is a this is a Raspberry Pi that is currently attached in the rack, and it's not mounted properly. It's just right now it's hanging from its network cable plugged into an Ethernet switch, and it's also plugged into an HDMI cable, which is going to one of the monitors up on the wall. So it's doing double duty. It's acting as a Z-Wave gateway, Z-Wave to MQTT. Mike V said, how many devices per radio? That's a good question. I don't know. So, a lot, I think, is the answer. I don't know what the limit is. I think you can have pretty big Z-Wave networks. And the, let's see what options dropped, blah. Let's just go to advanced options. Re-interview nodes, hard reset. No, I don't want to do that. Re-interview, dump, heal network, better connections to the controller. Yeah, why not? Let's just do this. I'm going to click on, can take minutes to hours and can degrade performance. I don't care. Go for it. All right, so it's beginning to heal the network. So what this does is it tells all of the nodes in the network to optimize their connections to their neighbors. Now this is a topic that, as I've seen, I really should anyway, mental break for a moment. So, this is the scenario. And the thing is, I'm getting into explaining stuff now. The reason I had that little mental break was I'm starting to think I need to be explaining this on a proper video with diagrams, not just doing this on a live stream and waving my hands around. So, the reason for that heal network thing, what this is doing is re-establishing, you can see the status here, it's doing heal. Some of these are done. Some of them down here are done. These ones are in the process of being done. These ones say skipped. I don't know why it says skipped, but anyway. So imagine you have your main access node, like your Raspberry Pi with the Z-Wave adapter plugged into it, which is what I've got, at the front of the building. And then you install a Z-Wave device all the way down the back end of the building. And it works, but your connection is not particularly strong. Those two devices will be bound to each other, and the device at the back of the building will preferentially communicate directly to your node at the front of the building. So it's pushing the limit of what it can do. Now imagine sometime down the track you install a second Z-Wave device and you put it in the middle of the building. It will also bind to the device at the front of the building. But you've now got these two devices on your network that are both connecting directly to your primary node. And that's not optimal. So what the healing process does is it tells all of the devices to re-examine the strength of all of the other devices around them and establish like a new routing setup, so a new priority on routing. So in that particular case, the device that's right down the back of the building, once you tell it to do the network heal, it might say, oh look, there is a new device that is closer to me and it has a nice strong signal. It's the one in the middle of the building. So I'm now going to route my signals through that instead of trying to reach all the way to the front of the building and talk directly to the end node. So what the heal does is optimize all of those connections through the mesh and allow it to run more efficiently. Yes. Oh, and Johan says, good integration to Home Assistant as well. Yeah. Oh, hey, Johan. I don't think I said hello to you earlier. So, yeah, some of these are still saying skipped. I don't know why. They may not even be powered up. Beaming, Z-Wave. Yeah. status. No, those ones are all down, which is, they're not even plugged in right now, which is why it's it hasn't done the heal with them. Okay, so now, yeah, there are all sorts of wrinkles with Z-Wave, like the fact that it is a proprietary system that no one else can use. It's the only way to make a Z-Wave device is to buy an official Z-Wave chip from Silicon Labs, or Scilabs. I think it's Scilabs who do it. So with most systems like this, they are defined at the protocol level, and even if they are proprietary, other companies can implement the system based on that protocol, provided they pay license fees. But in the particular case of Z-Wave, the company that came up with it manufactures the chips, and they are the only people that sell them. So in order to make a device that will run on a Z-Wave network, you have to buy the chip from the original Z-Wave vendor. And the reason I'm being hedging about that is I think it's Silicon Labs, but I'm only like 80% sure of that. So I think Silicon Labs are the ones that have the monopoly on control of Z-Wave chips, which means that every single Z-Wave device out there has a Scilabs chip in it, and there's no way around it. The upshot is that everything works perfectly all the time. I know it's a big claim, but it means that there is only one implementation of the Z-Wave protocol. There aren't multiple vendor implementations running on different silicon. It's all the same, and it's all compatible. So if you buy a Z-Wave device, you can be guaranteed that it will be compatible. They all speak the same language. Austin says the Z-Wave protocol was developed by Zensis, a Danish company based in Copenhagen in 1999. That's right. It's a while since I've looked at this. That's tickling my memory, Austin. I'm not questioning whether you're correct. I'm sure you are correct. But yeah, I'd forgotten that part of the history of it. So like a lot of these things, they are developed by one company, which might be a relatively small company, and then they're acquired by someone else. And then, so in this particular case, I think it was Scilabs who ended up buying it out and then providing all the silicon for it. So, cool. Thanks for confirming that, Austin. Z-Wave silicon is indeed made by Silicon Labs. Yep. Yeah. And I don't have anything against Silicon Labs or Scilabs. I like their USB to serial converters. Things like the CP2102, which I use on a whole lot of devices, including the Rack32, is made by Scilabs. I mean, Scilabs is a genuine, reputable company, and they can produce good stuff. So I don't have anything against it. It's more like an observation that they have followed this particular business model where they want to control the sandbox that everybody else plays in. So they say only our implementation of the protocol is allowed to be used. Oh, Chip says quarter to lunch, which means that it is quarter to pizza. Quarter to pizza going in the air fryer. Yeah, anyway, I need money. That seemed to come out of nowhere. But the reason for saying that is I have several hundred of these Z-Wave power boards sitting in boxes piled up higher than my head in the back of the factory, and I want to sell them. So sometime I need to make a video explaining Z-Wave and showing how to do this sort of integration, like how to use Z-Wave to MQTT and a Raspberry Pi with a Z-Wave adapter in order to link it into an automation system. And it's an alternative to something like a Sonoff or a Tasmota based devices. It's closed source, but it works. So as like an end point in your network for something like a 6-way power board with individual outlet control and individual power monitoring, fantastic. Plug it in, you pair it with your Z-Wave network and you're done. It all just works perfectly. So it doesn't have the flexibility of something like Tasmoda based systems where you can really customize it to do exactly what you want. But with Z-Wave to MQTT as a bridge running on a Raspberry Pi, or it doesn't have to be on a Pi, it could be on whatever, then all of the Z-Wave devices just end up as nodes accessible via MQTT, which means it's really dead easy to do anything you want with them with Node-RED or Home Assistant or OpenHAB or whatever comes into your mind. They're just very close to plug and play end nodes. So what I need to do is make a video about that stuff and then sell some of the power boards that I have to help to fund the next stage of construction of the Super Lab. Yeah. Scott says Superhouse will become the primary Australian supplier of Z-Wave power boards. Yeah. Imogen said I'm interested in learning more about Z-Wave. Yeah. Johan says I need Z-Wave outlet, but I live in Sweden. Yes. Stephen says you need to list them on the website. Peter asked, do you have boards for sale? I am going to. This is the thing, is that I've got, it's literally 2 pallets stacked like as high as my head of boxes of, like, that had to come in unloaded with a forklift that came in, and I now have stacked at the back of the factory, and I'm never going to use them all. So I need to get them listed on the site and make them available for sale. But I haven't wanted to list them for sale until I did the accompanying video explaining how to use them, because they're kind of outside of the experience of most people that do DIY home automation. It's not hard per se once you know how to do it. If you have a Raspberry Pi and I know which is unobtainium at the moment, but if you have a Raspberry Pi and a Z-Wave stick, like a USB stick that plugs into it, and you set up this software running on it, the Z-Wave to MQTT software, then it's all straightforward. It's really not that hard. The thing is that if you don't have any Z-Wave stuff at the moment, there is that hurdle. You've got to set up that gateway in order to provide the integration point. So if you only want one device, you still need the gateway, and it's a bit of an extra thing that might not make it worthwhile, because setting up the gateway is probably going to cost more than the Z-Wave power board. But once you've got the gateway, it doesn't matter how many other devices you have, you can just keep adding them. And as you can see here, I've added a lot, and I've got control over pretty much everything through the lab here and out the back as well, all on Z-Wave. Like my ultrasonic cleaner is way down the back. It's in the back wall of the factory in the kitchen area down there where there's a sink and everything, and that's all on Z-Wave. And I can turn that on by voice control from here, which will start it heating up, so that then by the time I go down the back of the room to clean some PCBs, like go down the back of the factory, it'll be warmed up and ready at temperature, because it's connected to a Z-Wave power board and I've got full control over it from anywhere. So very, very useful stuff. But as I said, it's all the same sort of thing that you can do with Tasmoda and Sonoff type devices or Shelly devices or whatever. Oh, Imogen said, I guess the Raspberry Pi would be solely for the Z-Wave setup. Could you set it up on a normal PC? Yes, you can. Definitely. Scott says, once the video is done, you're going to have to work out a deal with the manufacturer. There is a... Yeah, they're not manufactured anymore. These particular ones are obsolete, I think. So... Imogen said, how did you acquire all of the Z-Wave power boards? They were donated. They were sitting in a warehouse. There is more of a story behind it. They were part of an initiative. It's part of the, what's the term? The renewable energy certificates thing. You know, the sort of where people come and knock on your door and say, we can change all of the light bulbs in your house to LEDs, or you know, we can install this power saving thing, which is all a government funded program. And these were done some years ago as part of that program, and there were a lot of them that were distributed and, you know, given to people as part of that program. But then the program ended, or whatever it was, they ended up with these excess units sitting in a warehouse at SP Oznet, which is the big electricity provider that was doing the distribution of them. And they were sitting in the warehouse for several years, just taking up space. And at some point, the warehouse manager said, "Get this rubbish out of here. We need to dispose of it." And they were literally just going to dump them. They were going to put them in, you know, in dump bins and send them off to landfill. And someone who, I wish I could remember the name. I'm going to have to look up the person's name. Someone who works at SP Oznet contacted me and said, "Hey, they're about to trash all of these power boards. Would you have any interest in them?" And I said, "Hell yeah." So I went down to the depot. They were shipped from one depot to another in order to get them closer to me. So they did an internal transfer. And then I went down to the local depot in Ringwood and, well, Mitcham really, with a trailer, and did a couple of trailer loads. So they chucked them on with a forklift at their end, and I brought them back here. So I had them all donated to me to save them going to landfill. It was one of those things where it just came up, and I would rather see something useful done with them than see them dumped. So I just jumped on them. Yes, so Imogen Ann asked about running the Z-Wave setup on a normal PC, and Scott said it's just running on Linux. Now the thing is that you can do it in Docker. So this is stretching my memory now, because it's quite a while since I set this up. I am pretty sure that, so this zwave.local machine, which is it is a Raspberry Pi, I am pretty sure that I am just running this in Docker on the Raspberry Pi. So as long as you can pass the USB device through to the container, and then it should be fine. Yeah. Oh, it's 11:55. It is 5 minutes to pizza time. So, what have I missed about the new Node-RED? Yes. So there were the links, HTTP request, maintenance release, milestone release. This is where all the interesting stuff is going to happen. Focus editor for undo. Yeah, let's have a quick look. What can I do in Node-RED that I could not do before? Where are all the cool tools that people have been using? So let's try what's in here. No. Can I do flow, subflows, create subflow, groups, group selection, ungroup selection? Maybe that's how I do interesting things. Let's just try grouping something. I'm going to select these and then go groups, group selection, and it's now put a border around it. Okay, and now what? Can I, oh, okay, so attributes. So I can give this, I'm just going to call it hot air. In fact, I'm going to call it hot air 1, because there is now a hot air system for Tom's bench behind me. So we're going to have to start numbering everything. I'm going to make it red just for the fun of it. Label, show, color, yeah, that'll do. Top left, fill. Just so I can experiment with this, I'm going to give it a yellow fill. All right, so now I have a group, and if I grab, oh, now I can drag it around as a group. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So now I can make blocks and move them as blocks. And now what happens if I move something within the block? I can't. I wonder if there is a way, or like a hotkey, where I can move an object inside the group. Control delete is the most awesome new feature, says Scott. I'm afraid to do that. Control delete sounds like something that would do damage. Am I going to wreck my setup by doing control delete? I don't know. All right, I'm going to try it. With nothing selected, I'm going to do control delete. Nothing happened. What about control backspace? Nope, nothing happened. Because this is a Mac, maybe it needs to be command delete. Nope. Command backspace. Nope. Alt. Nope. Nope. Okay. Control delete. Yeah, Michael says, that sounds like press Alt F4 to better application performance. Yeah. Yeah, so what I want to figure out though is whether it's possible to move things within a function block. So I can now grab a block and move it, but if I grab any of the items within the block, it moves the entire block. Do I have to ungroup it? Ungroup selection, and then I can move things, and then I can regroup it. Group selection, if I just do that. No, I don't want to do that. Anyway, I'm just messing around here. It's maybe doing the borders and groups and things is one of those features that I think that I would like, and then when I use it, I wouldn't actually like it that much. Scott says, it leaves the links intact when you delete a node. Oh, okay. Control delete. Yeah, so normally if you deleted a node, like say if I deleted this switch node, I'm going to do this without deploying it. I'm just going to, so I selected the switch node, I'm just going to press delete and it goes away, and you can see that the links also went away. So I'm going to undo that, and now I'm going to do control delete. Oh, yes, I see. Oh, that is magic. Cool. So what it did was it deleted the node that was in the middle, and then it linked through where the node had been. So I'm going to undo that once again. But what that means is that, okay, so back here where I had JSON, so I've got this JSON converter, and now with the new node red, I think function nodes, etc., can accept JSON directly. So what this node is doing is taking a JSON string and converting it to an object, because what's happening is that the info coming in on MQTT on this topic is JSON. So it takes JSON through here, and then it converts it to an object, and then passes it into here. I might be misspeaking here, but Dodgy said, does Control Z undo? Yeah, well, on a Mac, Command Z does the same thing as Control Z. Okay, Aaron says, double click a node in the group to edit and move them. Oh, right. Yeah, function could almost always use JSON. Yeah, so my point here was, I'm getting back to this delete and leave the things intact. So say I wanted to, say this JSON node is now obsolete. It doesn't need to be there. I can now go to, change the MQTT node to auto detect JSON, then control delete the JSON node. Yes, exactly. So light switch controller, auto detect string or buffer, auto detect parse JSON object string or buffer. I guess, which of these two options do I want? Parse JSON object to auto detect JSON? Yes. So I'm going to do that. And then I will control, so I no longer need the conversion. So if I now control delete that, you can see that node has gone away, and now it is linked directly into these other nodes, and it left those links intact. Well, it re-established the links that would have previously passed through that node. Yeah, groovy. So now if I click on deploy, and I walk over, not going to worry about that for now. All right, I'm going to switch back to this view, and I'm going to walk over to the light switch and press the switch, and we'll see if it still works. Oh, and it works. Look at that. I can turn the lights on and off using the switch, and we no longer need the conversion. That is nice. Thank you very much, Scott, for all these tips. Yeah, so if I go into, where are we? Oh, the others aren't active at the moment. So that was really the critical thing. Yeah, so this is an example. So this is a deactivated, this is actually from, so what I did was duplicate my installation from home and set it up here. I exported a whole lot of flows and things because I was using them as a reference to see how I had structured the control. So this is a disabled flow, but you can see here, same sort of thing. We've got the MQTT subscription from the East switchboard controller going into the JSON conversion, going into here. So if I wanted to, what I could do is edit this, go to auto detect that one, hit done, go into JSON, control delete, and it's just fixed all of those references. I'm going to undo that to show you how much effort this just saved. This is really cool. So you can see the links coming out of this JSON conversion node go down to all of these different things all the way down the page here. And doing it the old way, I would have had to re-establish all of those links. But now I can just select that, go control delete, and boom, all those links are still in place, which is fantastic. I'm just going to hit deploy again so it stays, so it's saved. Very, very nice. Less clutter. Yes, you're right, Scott. Less clutter. Well, that in itself is a good enough reason to go to Node-RED 3. Right. Oh, so Aaron said double-click a node in the group to edit and move them. Yes, that's right. I read that comment earlier and then I didn't follow up with testing it. So I'm going to try this. So I'm going to select these and then I'm going to group the selection. And then if I click on hot air just once and move it, it moves the whole group. But if I double click on it, it moves it within the group. Oh, this is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Now if I click away from it and click on it, it moves the whole group. Very nice. Okay. You just have to know. So Scott says, now to blow your mind, you can select a link and insert a link out, link in pair. Okay. Yes, I think, hang on, I'm going to ungroup. No, I'm going to move these back down here and then I'm going to ungroup the selection. Now, yeah, I think I'd heard about this one. So is this where you want to insert a node into an existing link? Let's see if I do, so select the node, right click, and where are we? Okay, you can select a link and insert a link out, link in pair. What do you mean by a link out, link in pair? Is that where you put a node in the middle? So it's the opposite of the event that we just did. I'm just going to stick a function node. I'm going to try sticking a function node into there. Oh yes, it does. How slick is that? All right. So now I'm going to control delete that just to undo that. Oh, right click insert. Okay. Oh, Don S from New Zealand. Hi, I'm late. I'm doing an install in the USA. Hang on, are you physically in the USA or are you in New Zealand doing a remote install? So, okay, so I've got this link. If I right click it, insert node, junction or link nodes. What happens if I just insert a junction? All right. So from a junction, I can link something else, I guess. If I do insert node, Oh, okay. It just lets you select from one of these. And if you do insert link nodes, ooh, okay. Link nodes, that's a way of neatening it up. So what happens is that it's like a hidden wire. There is a link out from here and a link in here, but it doesn't have the link that's cluttering everything up. And then if you select it, it shows a representation of that logical connection. Yeah, nice. So I'm going to undo that. I'm just going to hit Control Z a couple of times to get the link back. So, okay, interesting. So you can select the link and then insert a node and do it from this menu, or you can just pick something from the palette on the left, hold it over the link until it goes dashed, let go, and it gets inserted into it as well. So that's another way of achieving the same end result. Oh, Don says, flew to Chicago, then drove to a large chocolate factory in Pennsylvania. So right now you're in a chocolate factory in Pennsylvania. Should we all be jealous? Or maybe not, because you're not eating chocolate, you'll just be smelling it. Because chocolate factories smell amazing. Oh, Aaron says, the group will auto resize if you drag a node outside the existing ones too. Okay, let's do that just as a test. So we've got group selection. All right, so now I'm going to move this up here. And you can see the size of the border. Now if I double click hot air and I just drag it down here, oh yeah, look, the border expands to, to keep a bounding box on it. Nice. Alrighty. Yeah. Donna said, can't say who, but you can probably guess. Yeah. And you can link between different flows, David says. That's interesting too. So is that the, like that virtual link function? like hyperspace, or teleporting between different flows. So the way I've been doing links between nodes, 3 is a magical number, is using global variables as well. So that's what I've been forced to do in some situations. So set a global variable in one flow and then have that variable being processed by something in a different flow. So that's how I've got around doing links in between flows in the past. But if you can have a flow go directly between, that terminology was not going to make sense. Yeah, if you can have links pass between flows, that would be very handy. Stephen W., it is indeed 10 past pizza, and I feel I must stop. I must let everybody else get on with their lives. So, some point, maybe when I've done a little bit of preparation and got everything on the bench, I do want to get an MCP 23017 on the bench here and show it to you failing. Or we'll try it and see if we can get it to fail. Michael, yeah, I'd need to put the pizza in the air fryer though before I ask Alexa to start it. OpenWRT, yes, we should do that. Lab construction, oven, ChatGPT, programming and board design. Okay, so we've got some topics to follow up on for future live streams. But for now, I'm going to call it, yes, lots of awesome stuff coming up, says Imogen. 10 past 1 a.m. here in the UK. Oh, and Zigbee to MQTT, yes, right, that's correct. Oh, and Aaron says you can hide tabs as well to tidy things up, just right click. Nice. Yes, but Peter, you're right, Zigbee to MQTT. I really need to get back to making videos. I so need to do it. And Austin says, and soon mail time. That's right. I'm going to have a package from Austin with the PoE source auto selection circuit running. So that'll be awesome as well. It's going to be some fun stuff coming up. Oh, the other thing is that the me going through this thing this morning of feeling down made me think that, it reminded me that I really want to do another follow-up thing in relation to neurodiversity and mental health and all of those sorts of related topics. So some slightly non-technical stuff. And there are some people that I'm sure would have some interesting perspectives on that. So sometime soon I want to do a stream focusing on some of those more human aspects as well. So, thank you for coming. If you have pizza, go and eat it. That's what I'm going to do right now. And I hope you have a fantastic week and go and build something awesome. See ya. Button's here somewhere.